This week on Sunday Morning Futures, we're diving into some of the biggest political debates making headlines in New York and beyond. Let's start with a new report that's sparking criticism of Congressman Adam Schiff. According to the New York Post, Schiff has been paying just 3% interest on a mortgage for his Maryland home, a remarkably low rate compared to what ordinary Americans face today. What's raising eyebrows is the fact that Schiff claimed this Maryland property as his primary residence, even while continuing to represent California in Congress. Critics argue this looks like yet another example of powerful politicians enjoying financial breaks that the average homeowner could never dream of. For young people and families struggling to buy their first home, the contrast is especially frustrating. Imagine trying to secure a mortgage at today's high rates while one of the nation's top lawmakers benefits from a deal that feels out of reach for the public he represents. It's the kind of story that fuels the perception of a double standard, rules for them and different rules for everyone else. Now let's turn to Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, one of New York's most outspoken socialist candidates. Mamdani is facing criticism over his housing situation. Despite earning more than $100,000 a year, he lives in a rent-stabilized apartment. For those unfamiliar, rent stabilization keeps housing costs artificially low, protecting tenants from rising market prices. Mamdani says he first signed the lease when he was making less than $50,000, and he even claims he didn't realize the apartment was rent-stabilized at the time. But opponents argue that this is a perfect example of how certain policies, while designed to help struggling New Yorkers, can end up benefiting people who are no longer in financial need. Supporters of Mamdani, however, see things differently. They argue that the system is working as intended, helping tenants stay in their homes regardless of income growth. And they add that Mamdani has consistently fought for renters' rights and affordable housing, so his personal situation doesn't necessarily undermine his political platform. This debate really highlights a larger issue: New York City's cost of living crisis. With some of the highest rents in the country, a shortage of available housing, and vacancy rates below 2%, everyday New Yorkers are finding it harder and harder to keep up. Whether it's stabilized leases or below-market mortgages, stories like these strike a nerve because they touch on the struggles millions of residents face every single day. Adding to the conversation is Joseph Hernandez, an independent candidate entering the New York City mayoral race. Hernandez brings a very different perspective. Born in Cuba, he immigrated to the United States after spending his early childhood under a socialist system. He recalls waiting in long food lines, living with ration books, and experiencing frequent shortages of basic necessities. For him, socialism isn't a political theory, it's lived experience. Now, as a candidate for mayor, Hernandez is promising to bring that perspective to New York politics. His campaign is focused on restoring public safety, addressing affordability, and using economic growth to solve the city's housing crisis. One of his central proposals is adding 10,000 new police officers to the force, combined with stricter enforcement against repeat offenders. Hernandez argues that while official statistics may show crime dropping, New Yorkers riding the subway or walking the streets can feel the difference. The city simply doesn't feel as safe as it once did. On affordability, Hernandez acknowledges that Mamdani has tapped into real frustrations among voters. But he argues the solution isn't more government control or rent freezes. It's about increasing supply, lowering barriers for builders, and letting the market catch up with demand. With vacancy rates at historic lows, Hernandez says the answer is more housing, not more restrictions. Hernandez is also running as an entrepreneur, highlighting his background in business and technology. He points to his experience in the AI sector, where he recently helped take a company public, as proof that he knows how to innovate and manage complex challenges. His message to voters is clear: New York needs an operator, not another career politician. So as the mayoral race takes shape, voters are faced with a crowded field that includes establishment Democrats like Andrew Cuomo, outspoken socialists like Mamdani, and now independents like Hernandez. Each candidate represents a different vision for the city's future, from rent freezes and public grocery stores to market-driven growth and
The debates
expanded
over
law
housing,
enforcement. Safety, and affordability are not going away anytime soon. These are issues that touch every New Yorker's life, whether you're a student just moving into the city, a family trying to buy a home, or a retiree struggling to keep up with rising costs. And that's exactly what makes this week's episode of Sunday Morning Futures so compelling. We'll break down the controversies, hear directly from the candidates, and take a closer look at what's really at stake in the fight over New York's future. Stay tuned. It's a conversation you won't want to miss.